Welcome back. Well, I guess the cultural phenomenon of the summer was a book about, well, kinky sex, with nearly 200,000 copies of the 50 Shades of Grey book sold in Ireland alone. Half of you watching have obviously read it, and the other half of you probably have an opinion on it anyway. So, we asked 3 very different Irish women to appraise this erotic novel and everything it represents. So would you please welcome Irish Times columnist Jennifer O'Connell, model and journalist Deirdre Morrissey, and Fine Gael TD Michelle Mulhern. Don't objectify them already, for God's sake. This is an intelligent conversation about a cultural phenomenon. So that's the tie. Anyway, we'll save that for later. Jennifer, as the journalist, you want to explain to us, just tell us briefly in a nutshell what the book is about.
In case anybody's been like living in a fridge or something.
Well, in case anyone's been locked in a dungeon of pain for the summer, maybe, yes.
So it's about a ingenue, virginal, young, inexperienced, absolutely beautiful girl who has no idea about the power of her looks, Anna Steele, who's sent off to interview this guy Christian Grey of Christian Grey Enterprises Inc. We're never quite sure in the book what he actually does, apart from that it involves helicopters and the Sudan and, you know, something very important. So there's an immediate attraction between them, but they don't consummate their relationship until after he's handed her an 11-page contract detailing his preferences in the bedroom, which are, you know, for bondage, a little bit of sadomasochism, a bit of light fisting thrown in, nipple clamps, the works.
Okay.
So our heroine is horrified, and then the 3 books basically detail their relationship, how she wears him down.
He wants her to be his submissive, and he wants to be the dominant.
He wants to beat her and tell her what to wear and what to eat and, you know, when and how often to work out.
Irish, maybe, I'm thinking? Anyway, so, Jennifer, I remember you wrote about it kind of at the beginning of the summer, maybe before it had become, you know, before it had really
it was a phenomenon, but it wasn't the phenomenon it is now. I mean,
and
now
you thought it was harmless at that point.
Yeah, I wrote a review. I said, look, it's horribly badly written. It's about as sexy as a box of Pringles in my mind. But, you know, like, it's kind of a bit of harmless fun, and if it's like a bit of Housewives erotica.
In your new Irish Times column a couple of weeks ago.
I did.
And you think it's anything but harmless fun. You actually think that it's
a
dangerous kind of phenomenon now.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of saw it, like I wrote about it back in I think it was late May or early June, and I thought that it was going to be a bit of a flash in the pan, that it had been, you know, the subject of a very clever marketing phenomenon, that had got it out there and everybody was talking about it and everybody wanted to read it, because let's face it, sex sells, we all want to read about sex,
so
we're all fascinated
is this
with everybody else.
Book more dangerous or disturbing?
Well, because when you actually pick it apart, I mean, first of all, I think it's because it's a cultural phenomenon now. It's sold 40 million copies worldwide, which is like more copies than the Dirty Dancing soundtrack ever sold.
Wow.
So I thought it merited a bit of a more serious analysis.
Yeah.
You know, this is the book that arguably defines our generation. And at its
heart... And
your
problem with it is?
Well, at its heart, it's a relationship about control. It's about him controlling her. And it's not just about the bedroom. And in fact, the sex parts of it I don't have an issue with. It's more about the fact that he tells her what to wear, he tells her how much to eat. You know, he puts food in front of her and he won't let her leave until she's finished it. He says things like, if I had my way now, you wouldn't be able to sit down for a week after that remark.
Okay, so it's a bad message of man controlling woman.
I think it's the classic domestic violence relationship, to be honest with you.
Okay, Michelle, people might have a certain expectation of what you would think of the book, because you kind of famously burst onto the public consciousness by referring to sex outside marriage as fornication, which people would have certain ideas about somebody who uses a word like fornication. So, would you agree?
Thankfully, you read the context in which I used the word, and that's why I was on your show, and that's why I'm here.
Of course, thank you. So, what did you think of the book?
Okay, well, what I could add maybe to what Jennifer has said, because I have made a lot of inquiries about it and spoke to a number of people. And
you sound like a guard. I have made a lot of inquiries about it.
Okay, switch that bit off. Yeah. I'm not a guard. just generally speaking, some people say, well, I'll wait till the movie comes, because she sold the film rights to it. And what I just say to people is, well, just picture the romance story of The Quiet Man, Maureen O'Hara and John Wayne, and it's a long way away from that. And it is as Jennifer has described. But actually, it's not a book I would have read necessarily until you contacted me and asked me on.
And ordered you to read it.
And I submitted.
Yes.
So
go on.
Okay.
Did it bother you?
Reading the book. I think, actually, other than having a certain amount of interest in the eroticism in the first 1 or 2 scenes, after a while, it actually is a bit monotonous or boring or whatever. And what's really fascinating is the relationship. And I think what's really interesting about this book is, and why it maybe has people in a grip, is that this woman, the author, Ms. E.L. James, has found the language to explore an area and sort of do a can-do or a how-to-do book quite explicitly. She's found this language into an area that we're all really coy about. And so it is a fantasy, like it definitely is fantastical. But what I think is really interesting is the fact, I'd have to, while I sympathise with what Jennifer is saying, she mentioned about, domestic violence, and I read your article. I actually don't think that, because I think this is miles apart. It's as similar as this book is as similar to domestic violence as rape is to consensual sex. They're completely different, because at every point this girl is, okay, she's young, she's naive, she's actually very goofy, and I think this is very endearing. As Jennifer says, she really doesn't know her own, she's coming of age, she's only coming to terms with the fact she's actually attractive, and for a long time in the book she can't even acknowledge that this man finds her attractive, even though all the signs are there for people, those of us observing it.
But did you find, as Jennifer was talking about that, is this a book about a man controlling a woman? Is it a disturbing message that's going out into the culture, do you think?
No, I think what it is it's I think that might be a bit of a retrospective view of it. What I would see is that it's a challenge that presents all relationships now, or male-female relationships, or somebody you choose to be close to, which is people are no longer contented with, okay, a stereotypical relationship, this is a marriage, this is how it should be, because my expectation might be different than yours. So what I see is that the contract part of the book, which they're actually asked to sign a contract. She's asked to sign a contract to agree to all sorts of weird stuff, which can distract you, as Jennifer has described. But in fact, she negotiates it all the time. And I believe that successful relationships, even marriages, which is the ultimate contract for relationships, where people are bound together, that people get left behind. We all change over time, so you need to keep negotiating.
So what you're saying is that actually there's a good model in there for a relationship in a certain way. And well, I think your one does have the power, doesn't she? Because she is the one. She's
not a victim in my view. She's not a victim as somebody in domestic violence would be. She is constantly teasing it out. And in fact, what is really shocking to this young girl is that at a certain point she got pleasure in this pain, and she had to admit this. But what's really intriguing about the book is she is constantly questioning herself within the book, and all this sort of stuff that you might question yourself on. She's doing the dialogue between her two parts within herself, the part that said she shouldn't be doing it and the part she said she should.
Okay, Michelle, I want to bring Deirdre in. I'm sure people are surprised at your opinion. Deirdre, you probably know more than any of us do in a way about this whole thing, because you've as a journalist, you've looked into that scene a lot, and you're kind of familiar with how it all works and everything. You think as well that the kind of the 50 Shades effect out into society has been a kind of a good thing, don't you?
Yeah, it's an amazing phenomenon, but I just want to just join in what Michelle said there. The girl is topping from the bottom, she's like a submissive, but she's gaining control over the domination guy. So she's not really like being taken advantage of too much.
Okay, so she the submissive actually has the power in this situation.
Yeah, well, she's over the course of the 3 books, she does gain control, so she's all the time building up and gain.
Okay, and listen, from what you know of kind of these kinds of relationships, is that how it works in general? Is the submissive the person with the power, or what's the
strange thing about this book is that he's basically taken somebody who wasn't familiar with this area and actually introduced her to it, because most people that are in that kind of relationship, they're both want to do it.
Okay.
Where she's kind of naive and doesn't know what it's about, like.
Okay.
So he's introducing her to it.
And but tell us about, in general, the 50 Shades kind of effect. You think it's a good thing?
It's absolutely amazing. I mean, it's changed the dialogue of our whole culture. Like, everybody, if you say 50 Shades, everyone knows what you're talking about. And basically, it's selling out of sex shops across Europe. I mean, even Miss Fantasia in Dublin, Justin owns it. He was basically telling me that these little sex balls, these silver balls, you know, you'd wonder what's the fuss about, but basically you can't keep these in a shop.
Okay.
They sold out all over Europe.
Okay.
And you couldn't get them in for 2 weeks.
They're
to my
not
mother
something
or
for
any
hanging on
children,
your Christmas
that's
tree.
one of those things that you have in an office where you have the pink clicks and you go like that, okay? And what, is he seeing like ordinary kind of...
Basically, it's women sending
Decent
their fellas
Irish
in
women.
for them. That's what he
Really?
said. It's like there's husbands coming in that he said would never have been in the shop before, and they're coming in kind of a bit distressed and, you know, looking for these silver balls. And basically that he said that they're sold out throughout Europe. So even though the shop open 23 years, he's got contacts all over America, sold out all over America.
Can't get enough of those things.
No.
Okay. You
But
see,
we got some
Jennifer,
other
it
shows.
sounds a bit like this is a great moment of female sexual empowerment. And even the
it
fact
does,
that
and
the
that's
women
how
are
it's
sending the
been
men
sold.
in and
Yeah.
saying, I want a bit of that. The book was written by a woman.
Well, he said
it's
that
being read by women.
basically
Listen,
we're
I
going to
have
have a
no
generation
problem.
of women with the strongest pelvic walls.
Okay, we didn't need that, no.
But I think there's another point here. If you actually look through the book, she is looking for a special feeling about someone. He's the man. She falls in love with this man, but she finds that... So it's love she's looking for. He's looking for it. He's a damaged character in the book. So at the end of the day, even though she likes the intimacy and she got a certain thrill, she's still looking for love, and she feels an emptiness because he can't connect with her. So
Which
I
is like-
think
it's like so many chick lit books, isn't
but
it?
I think if you take that big overview, it means that sex has its place. It's not the be-all and end-all of everything, despite the book and despite all the giddiness that surrounds the book, even by people who haven't read the book.
Okay,
But I
so
have
Jennifer,
to say, I'm beginning to think that I might have read a different book to you, Michelle, because the book I read didn't have much by way of negotiation as equal partners. And
Jennifer, I have to say,
more.
I think it did. Like, I mean,
No,
she
I
never
think-
signs the I've only read one of them. She hasn't signed the contract by the end. She has taken a load of stuff off the table all the time. He has. Am I right in saying that he started out saying, all I'm going to do is this stuff, we can't have a relationship? And have they not, she has broken him down in that way as well, that they've started having a relationship too.
My reading of it was that every time she objected to something, a new MacBook Pro would arrive, or she'd get an iPad, or she'd get a BlackBerry, and she'd be like, oh, okay then, you know, you
But
can
did
spank
she
me.
not she reluctantly took those things because they were kind of to keep in touch with him and stuff, and she didn't want any of them.
Oh, she didn't want them at all, Brendan. No, no, no. She was like, no, keep them away from me.
Well, she kind of was.
She.
I thought.
Well, she ended up with them.
She did. She took them.
I think
I
she
mean,
would have
I
been
don't
happy.
know, that
what do you-
side of it I just found really seedy. You know, it was like he was wearing her down all the time, and he was moving the boundaries of what she considered acceptable.
So it was
And
kind of
didn't-
insidious.
I think she would have
It
been
didn't
happier
seem
with
like
the flowers
negotiation.
and the chocolates, though. Like, she does say from the
But-
start
but
that
it begs
she's looking for more. But I mean, that's what, like, you can't choose who you love, and she fell in love with him. So
She did, but why does the girl go for the bad guy? Like, you know, nobody is perfect. Like, he obviously has extra maybe imperfections, but love means that you try and make up the gap and you hope that he changes. And the story is that she hopes that he changes, but there is an integrity about which she approaches it, which is this constant negotiation. She doesn't want to quite let him go until she thinks that, you know, there's no hope. And in the very end, when she succumbed to the full throttle violence that he would put on her, because she said at the very end, right, do what you can do to me, and he did it. And she said, that's too much. I can't believe that you love me and do this. And she walked away from it.
But she didn't walk away until after it was over. I mean, she allowed him to beat her, and then she walked away after.
And do you worry,
But she consented.
Jennifer,
She consented, Jennifer.
Like, Deirdre's there talking about what it does sound like people are having a lot of fun out there in their own relationship.
And I think that's fantastic.
Maybe people
Brilliant.
didn't talk about
Bring it on.
these things. Yeah.
I think people are having sex. People have a bit of kink. Everyone has a bit of kink. I think that.
Do they?
Yeah.
And
Well,
this is no surprise
Like, if
to
you're into
people in
stockings, you
publishing.
have a kink. If you're into, you know, everybody has a little thing that they like. Even if you like getting kissed on the neck, that's a kink.
And do you
I think
think,
the
Jennifer, that's
publishing
been a
industry
role-
hasn't really been surprised. What's different about this book, there's been a growing appetite for female erotica, and I think that's brilliant. And I think what took the publishing industry by surprise with this is that women are not embarrassed to go and buy the book. They're not embarrassed to be seen reading it in public, and why should they be? They're not embarrassed to be seen. For me, it's just a shame that it's this particular book.
Okay. Fair enough.
I would say, just adding to that I think that part of the charm is that she's not coming across like she thinks she's so wonderful. She's coming across like that she feels sort of inadequate about it. To me, it sort of reminds me of the narrative of Sex and the City. She's on this exploration. So the sex part is nearly, okay, we could nearly imagine it, but they actually get explicit about it. It just explores the boundaries of sensuality, and at what point you're saying, well, I don't want to take this, or I don't want to take any more. And we are in a society where people are more inclined. The only thing I'd add is, I don't know anyone who's acted on foot of the book. I know lots of people who haven't read it, they get giddy and they start getting embarrassed. The people who've read it, I don't know that people are necessarily, I think there's an interest in it, and no more than we watch drama programs, you read a book about it. It's a fantasy. I don't know that people are implementing it. Definitely people I'm talking to, maybe they wouldn't tell me.
Yeah.
They're not
like
doing
100 years ago, there was no such thing as a woman having an orgasm. People didn't think it existed. And basically, women are evolving and they're saying, we want an orgasm, we can do it. And basically, they're looking for more. So the book is just kind of telling guys, women want a bit more, and women are more visual. So they have an orgasm in the mind. Like every single chamber of your mind has to be activated for a woman to have an orgasm.
The biggest sex organ
so
in
it's
the body,
very hard for a woman to have an orgasm compared to a man. Like they're much... Because basically they have an orgasm to procreate. So I think basically the book is for women, and it's just like a little bit of it's mummy porn. It's for suburban housewives, and that's basically snowballed throughout Europe.
And you
America
think they're getting a little vicarious kind of kick out of it or whatever?
Well, this is all the hullabaloo is about. It's about whips and a few other things. It's a bit of fun. It's like I think it's just that basically the book has somehow made this stuff acceptable. Like BDSM was not mainstream before this book came out, so it's just it's making something mainstream that was underground.
Why do you think, Jennifer, just briefly before we finish up, why do you think it's so popular if it's so wrong and it's such a book with such a bad message?
Well,
why do women like it so much?
Initially, there was a ready-made audience for it because it was Twilight fan fiction, and Twilight was phenomenally successful. People like reading about sex. Sex sells. Women are interested in sex. As much as that might shock the publishing world, we want to read about it as well. And then there was the whole word of mouth thing. It took off. People read it, and like myself, I read it 4 or 5 months ago, and I thought, not really my kind of thing, but it's harmless. It's a bit of fun. It's just now that it is the cultural phenomenon. I just wonder, do we really want this to be the book that defines our generation?
Okay, well, maybe it'll be one of the books that defines our
Hopefully
generation.
only one.
Listen, we could talk about this all night.
I mean, it's badly written, but at least it's got people back reading books. That's one thing.
Yeah. and it's got people back spanking.
Well, and the bottom line is she's still looking for love.
And I bring them.
And it's not solely to be
Michelle,
found in
that
sex.
you took such a moral message out of the whole book. You'd swear it was the Bible you were reading. You see the good in everything.
We can be cynical as we get older, or we can say, there's true love and there is love.
Brendan, I blame all the housewives in Ireland anyway for using the wooden spoon on us when we were younger.
Is that what it is? Okay, listen, girls, fantastic talking to all of you, and maybe we'll revisit this subject again. Ladies and gentlemen, Jennifer O'Connell, Deirdre,